we've got a very exciting project for you today. As you know, last few weeks we completed the April projects, and today is the first week of the May project. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Let me go ahead and put on the apron here. And we are going to go ahead and unbox our next May kit here. And if you are joining us back from a previous stream, or if you're a part of the Stained Glass Mastery community, go ahead and comment in the chat here, and we can love to hear from you. And so we're going to go ahead and get opening. So this is what the kit comes in, and we ship them all out from our facility in San Antonio. And we are going to get this opened up and see what kind of glass we are working with for the month of May. Now, the first pattern of the kit is actually a dove, and we're going to go ahead and get that out here. So it comes in this properly, beautifully bubble wrapped so it arrives safe and sound. Get this out of here. Get this big box out of here. And we will get to opening our glass. We can see our patterns right here. So let's go ahead. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to open up a fresh kit of glass. So we've got some tape we're going to get through here. And in case you're unaware, this is a part of our Stained Glass Mastery community. So if you are interested in that, I will leave a link in the description and also the pinned comment. So I hope to see you there. So we've got our 4 patterns. I'm going to go ahead and trace them here so that you can see what we are working with. So this is the pattern for today. Kind of this little dove shape. And each of these come with 2 patterns each. So, you know, you can do it with a friend or a spouse. And so that's the dove for the first one. And these are all adhesive backed, meaning we can peel it and we can put them onto the glass for our patterns. Now the week 2, I believe, is going to be this husky. So we are making our way into animal life, and we've got some fantastic glasses picked out that are going to work out very nicely for the husky here. So I'm thinking that one might be a pretty popular one. I'm hoping so anyway. I really like the way that this pattern came out. So that's roughly what that's going to look like. And we've got the shell. Got this swirling motion here all the way around. And again, I'm just doing this really quickly to give you an idea because it's kind of hard to see on camera. So that's the shell. And we've got a piece of candy, kind of like a, you know, those red and white candies here. So that's that one. And of course, the last April kit came with 4 glasses. And these are 4 completely different glasses. So if you keep up with purchasing the kits, you'll build up a nice inventory of different glass types that you can use for other projects. So that would be a pretty nice way to steadily build up your sort of inventory of different glasses. So we're going to move on here, unwrapping our glass. And I actually don't even remember what glass is in here, but I know it is some nice stuff. And we do several wrappings here. And then once the bundle is removed, it is packed with cardboard and styrofoam. And this just really ensures that your glass gets to you in one piece. Okay. Now, I put my X-Acto blade somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and just use the scissors. Okay. Get all this cut out. And I know for sure the doves are, we're doing a white dove here for this project. And so I know for sure we have another white glass. In our last kit, the white glass was a iridescent type. And so I'm not too sure what kind of white glass we're going to have here. But I did enjoy that last kit. Of course, we have all those videos available for viewing if you wanted a complete tutorial walkthrough for all of the April projects. Okay. Go ahead and cut through here. And we are almost to the unveiling of the glass here. All right. There we go. So let's go ahead and get this all opened up. All right. It's a fair bit of packing here. Make sure it gets to you in one piece. All right, so here is the first piece. It is a beautiful kind of gray-white mix of glass, and I believe this is from Kokomo Glass, and so this is going to be really good. You know, the Huskies are normally have some gray and white in them, so this is going to be a nice glass for that. As I suspected, we do have another white variation. Let's see, this is from Oceanside. This is 200S. So this one is not iridescent, so it is white like last month's, but it is not iridescent. And here we have a nice sort of red-violet, white kind of swirling glass. It looks a little bit brown on camera here. Let me see if this other camera might show it a little bit more true. Yeah, there we go. So that looks a little bit truer, this one. So we've got this kind of red-violet swirls with the white swirls. So it's pretty nice glass there. And we are going to, there, and we have another red glass. Now last month's we had the granite texture, and this is the water texture. You see that wavy water glass? So that's a nice variation from last time. So we've got some fantastic glasses here for the next few weeks. And we are going to go ahead and get started. I've got a little bit of a mess here. I'm going to go ahead and clean that up off camera later. But I am very excited to go ahead and get into our first week, which is the Dove. And for this one, I am going to be doing an all-white Dove. And you can, of course, mix in different colors. Or if you have scrap glasses, you can, of course, use those if you wish. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get all these patterns for the next few weeks out of the way. And if you are interested, all these patterns are available for free in the Stained Glass Mastery community. So if you want to, you can download it, print it out, and use it that way. So that can be a useful tool for you. Now this particular glass is not directional, meaning it is just a solid white through and through from all directions. So we don't have to be too cognizant of where we are placing these. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more zoomed in here. There we are. Okay. So we are going ahead and get started. And like I mentioned, these are all adhesive backed. And so we can easily stick them onto our patterns, and we will just cut right up against them as a guide. It works very, very nicely. I very much enjoy using these vinyl patterns. If you have a Cry-Cut machine, you can probably manage to make these on your own. We do, of course, sell these, and so I'll leave all of that linked here in the, I'll do a linked product here on the YouTube page, and I will also do the full bundles and all that. There we are. So again, thank you for joining us today. Let me know what you are thinking about this month's glass selection. And this one has a little tiny piece for that beak, so don't lose that one. All right. And this one, you could almost fit it anywhere. But I don't want to lose it, so I'm going to put it kind of in a spot that's pretty obvious here. Oops, and it's sticking to my glove. Get this glove off, I can get that little piece onto the glass. There we are. And it's a little bit, you can see this white glass on the white pattern, a little bit harder to see on camera, but in this one you can probably really see it. Yeah, see, so that's kind of what we're working with here. And so, once we apply the solder, it's going to really pop all these shapes, so I am pretty excited for that. And this one, I would say, is not really the most beginner-friendly. I would definitely say the April kit was a little bit more beginner-friendly. So you might want to consider that if you are looking at the kits. And of course, we are still ongoing with creating the video guides here for the May kit. So the April kit, of course, already has all those videos recorded. So if you want the full video walkthrough, you can check with the April kit. And of course, if you want to follow along each week with me as we do these live, you can ask questions and I can answer them in real time. We can go ahead and do that too with the May kits. All right. And if you do choose to order any of the kits, they do ship out pretty much next day in terms of business days. So if you order it on a Sunday, we will ship it out by Monday. And the same, all the way up until pretty much Thursday. We'll ship it out Friday, and Friday orders will be shipped out Monday with all the weekend orders. Okay. So these are all of our pieces for the dove here, and we're going to go ahead and get to cutting them. So what I like to do is separate all of these pieces so that we do not have an issue with breaking into each other as the glass pieces are separated. So I'm going to get this piece. This is an easy one to kind of get separated here. And the way I like to do it is I just put a nice consistent pressure, and then I like to tap the breakthrough with the back of the glass cutter. If I can't, pretty soon we're going to see me use the Grosers, and we'll demonstrate how those are used also. All right, so we are moving on here. So we are going to do a nice even cut there. And what I like to do is when I'm separating them, I like to cut at least one of the edges. And I find that that makes it just a little bit more efficient. And this pattern has many, many curved lines here. So it is going to be a little bit of a trickier pattern, to say the least. But I think it's going to look really awesome when we get it done here. I've been looking forward to this particular pattern for a while. I do love the dove as an animal and symbol. Normally a symbol of peace. So that, I think, at least I know for me personally, it does bring me peace to some degree. So we are moving on here. We've got the first few pieces separated, and I don't make sure to not lose that little guy. Now this particular white glass that we did sell in the kit, it does have a smooth side on both sides. It is a pretty much fully opaque glass also, so you will need something like the vinyl pattern in order to cut it down. You will not be able really to print something out and see through it to do that cut. Now you can print something out, cut it out on with scissors, and then trace it or glue it on and kind of emulate that adhesive-backed vinyl in that way. Now, we are going to be using the grosses, of course, throughout this cutting process. And I like to use, whenever separating the pieces, the flat end of the grosses on the top with the curved end on the bottom. And that will kind of help to do the leverage of the piece to separate the glass along that score line. And right here, we might be able to get a 2-for-1. I'll do this edge, and I'll bring it over and do this edge too. There we go. And whenever you are cutting, you are going to hear a bit of a scratching scoring sound. And it is a little bit misleading. We do call this a glass cutter, but in reality, it is simply a glass scoring tool, meaning it puts a shallow scratch in the glass, and then with the right pressure applied, it will break along that score. So that is really kind of the background behind actual glass cutting. There we have it. We'll continue on separating our pieces, making sure to still continue to keep an eye on that very tiny piece that is the little beak. Okay. And I'm suddenly realizing I still need to separate these pieces, just like that. All right. And I'm going to keep these two together because they're just so small. It's kind of tricky. I don't want to accidentally sweep it right off the edge and then ask myself, where did I put it? So we are going to continue cutting here. This is a nice pattern. I think for this, we're also going to put a little piece of copper foil somewhere about right here-ish. We'll see how it looks on the overall. To put a little eyeball. I'd like to see a little eyeball in there. Just something simple, nothing too crazy. And I have seen some of the members of the community posting their projects, and they are looking even better than the way I did mine. So certainly we are growing a really nice group of people that are sharing their knowledge to anyone that might be interested. And even we had the monthly giveaway for the most active members of the community. And all three of them chose to pass on their free gift card to another person in the group. So again, a very great, kind group of people. And really happy to be a part of that. So I hope that you will also consider joining in on that fun there with the Stained Glass Mastery community. Okay. Get this all cut down. And again, please let me know if you have any questions here. I'd be happy to respond and get this going. There we go. And sometimes if I have a tiny little bit of glass showing like I do on this pattern, I just like to grossier it off. So I'll show you what that looks like. Normally, in this case, I'll take the curved jaw, put it on top, and just chew that glass away until I get really close to that pattern. And then we are going to grinder all the remainder off of there. And we've got our first piece fully cut, waiting to be ground down. So we are making some good progress here. Make sure to keep this workspace nice and glass shard free. We want to avoid poking ourselves with all these little tiny glass shards. And if you have cut glass before or done these projects, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There we are. Okay. Oops, on the wrong end. It's a little bit harder that way. There we go. much easier. All right, and we're just kind of pile the pieces off to the side, and then we will grind them all down at the same time when we are ready. So sometimes if the piece is big enough, I can use my hands to break it, but that's not always the case, and so you do want to be mindful of that. And if you need to use some heavier duty gloves, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Probably would be a good idea for everyone, including myself, to do so, but I am one of the stubborn ones, as I'm sure some of those listening are too. And so for that reason, we will continue to have some little minor scratches and injuries. But that is all right. Sweep all that off. Now, when you are cutting these curves, you do want to move your elbow to kind of subtly emulate that nice curve. And if you don't get it perfect on the first try, again, we are going to be grinding these down, and these vinyl templates act as a perfect guide for those, for the grinder. Sometimes some of these little templates can start to come up or come unglued or whatever, but these work perfectly. I've never, not a single time, had a single problem with that. So that is, you know, very handy, very useful. Highly, highly recommend these. All right. And a lot of our customers are retired individuals, and they have sort of picked up an artistic passion in their retirement. And so that is pretty cool. I do like to see that. I kind of got lucky. I got to do it from before I retired. I didn't have to wait till I retired to start. So I have been very fortunate in that regard. And if you are retired, I think, and you have not found something, you know, the next thing, if you will, I do think you should check out Stained Glass. And I think that you will be pleasantly surprised with what it has to offer. And if you know anyone that's retired that has also done it, I think that they will tell you something very similar. Now, sometimes when these pieces are very small, I like to use 2 pliers, and I actually have misplaced one of them. So what I'm going to do is just secure the glass down. Probably would recommend go finding the pliers. If this doesn't work, okay, it did work. Really all I did, see if I can kind of show you right here on the free camera. All I did here, since I didn't have my other pair of pliers, which would be the most ideal way. I don't know if this was the right piece. One of these pieces, I think it might have been this one. What I did here was I grabbed this piece on the edge of the table, secured it this side down, and then just snapped it like that. But it's better if you just hold it with pliers on both sides. This is a little bit too small for me to hold with my hands. I could end up, you know, cutting my finger or something. So that's why it was a little bit more challenging in that particular piece. But nonetheless, where there is a will, there is a way, and we will figure out what to do whenever we run into these little bit trickier situations. And fortunately for you, especially if you are watching this in the video on YouTube released later, you're going to see exactly how we overcome all of these little hurdles. And that will help you whenever you are making your dove. Okay. Get these all swept off. And I know many people, they like to use these little shards for mosaics and other crafts, and that could be a good option for you also to not lose any money on the materials. If you have to throw them away, or if they're not really usable for a stained glass approach, or a copper foil stained glass approach I should say, but you could do a copper foil mosaic instead. So that could be a fun idea also. Okay, we've got a few more pieces here. And I think what we might do too is just put all the pieces down onto the pattern and just check to make sure that we did not miss anything and nothing got swept off onto the floor that we were intending to keep, because that is a possibility, albeit unlikely. We want to go ahead and check as we go, make sure we're not missing anything. What I'm going to do here, this piece is a little bit hard for me to get the grosses on. Whenever they get to kind of a finer point like this, they tend to break in this way. And so what we are going to want to do here is to give the grosses a little bit more leverage, remove this piece, and now suddenly we are much, much closer to that tip, and it's much easier to separate that glass. And I don't know if I scored that part yet. Let me score that. There we are. Okay. And we've got a few more tiny pieces here to do. And this is why I kind of wanted to save these for last, because they're so small and we do not want to lose them. They almost look like they are simply cutoffs. And I might go and find some pliers right here on the stream quickly, just in case I don't want to make a mistake and cut myself when it's really unnecessary. It's very easy to go find some pliers. But we'll see. When cutting this tiny piece out, you're probably going to need a secondary tool. What we might also end up doing is kind of grinding the pieces down significantly, and that might also help us a lot. So let's see what we can do here. This is a very tiny piece. We are going to have to do the little trick again with the brush on the edge of the table. Let's see how we're looking right here. If I can show you with this piece, this is just very tiny. I really can't get my fingers to hold it. So what we are going to do, see, I'm going to grab it like this, where I've got it just barely on that score line. You can't really see it. Let's see, maybe I can show you on the close camera here. See how I barely have it, just barely on the score line. And then I'm going to secure the other part with the handle. Really, it's better to, like I said, do it with a pair of, see how it just breaks right there along that score line? It's better just to do it with another pair of pliers. And then we are going to want to see if we can do something similar. I mean, this is just this tiny little thing right here. See, I really don't want to put my finger on here. I think I'm going to injure myself. I'm about 90% sure I'm going to injure myself. So what we are going to do is try it anyway. Let's see what happens. Probably not my brightest moment. Okay, we got it. So that's not too bad. So this is just a tiny little beak. It might be very difficult to foil on the typical foiler we like to use, but we can always hand foil it, of course. So let's go ahead and check all of our pieces against the pattern that we have here. Sweep that off. Okay. So we have the body right there. And many of these wing shapes are kind of similar. So it might take a little bit of trial and error to figure out where each of these little pieces go. Found it. They are similar, but not exact. So you will still be able to differentiate pretty easily each piece from another. And it is coming together here. And it's going to look very sharp with the black patinaed solder. It's going to look very sharp. I'm really going to be looking forward to the finished product here. This is just a really nice little pattern. And there we have it. Don't forget about this little tiny piece right here. Just like that. So we've got all of our pieces cut out. Now we need to grind them down and get right up to that template. So let's move on into that part. We're going to bring out our grinder. I'm going to go ahead and sweep off the area one more time. Make sure we get all that debris, because we do not, like I said, want to be poked by some glass. All right. Oops. Gotta make a little bit of room here. And here it is, the grinder that we will be using. Let me go ahead and put some water in here. Again, just a water bottle with a hole poked in it. And it works perfectly for our water applicator for the grinder. And what I think I might even do here is give you guys a little bit of a different angle. Let's see how we're looking here. Let me see. Keep it on the overhead for the moment. You can see this side pretty well. I might even, I've got an idea. Can do it from this direction. Okay, good. So we can switch back a little bit between these angles and see the glass being ground down. So again, we've got our pattern here. You can see the little bits of white sticking out here and there. And we are going to take this down all the way. And really, I do think the overhead might be the best angle to see it. And we've got a little bit of dry glass dust coming off there. So again, just using this template, we can just go right down to it. And hey, Bobby, thanks for joining. Happy to see you again. And this is a 1-inch diameter grinding head. And we do actually also sell a glass cutting kit. And it includes a grinder. And the grinder type depends on what we have in stock at the time. Right now, these Gryphon pieces are, these Gryphon Gryphet little grinders are sold out. So we're now resorting to the inland grinders, but we are going to be getting more in stock. I like the little Gryphet grinder. I think it's far big enough for definitely these little projects that we're doing. And I think for most people, And even with our studio application, we still use them. So they do work out very nicely regardless. And we are going to continue on here. And again, you do have to kind of push on the edges of this glass. And if you don't feel comfortable, there's no reason why you cannot just wear some gloves, some heavier duty gloves. So I'll just kind of sometimes pick it up with one hand and then push it into the grinder with the other hand. And hey, Cindy, thanks for joining us. I would say that as far as holding a small piece, I'm going to show you. Sometimes I'll use just my hands. Sometimes I will use a tool like the Grosier's or something. But we're going to see. And we're honestly going to try to do as little grinding as possible on that piece, because the tiny pieces are a little bit challenging to, you can only hold something so tiny at, physically. So it's not like we're working here with electronics or something. And so we want to try to keep it as simple as we can. And to be honest with you, if you wanted to combine the body and that beak part together, you could. And if you wanted to sort of give that look of the beak, you could overlay a little bit of foil. And that might be a good option if you're having a hard time to still get the same look, but without having to still use such a tiny little extra piece. Now, these vinyl templates, they will start to come off of the glass if the water gets underneath them. So if they are not stuck down really well to the glass, or if the glass is a little bit dirty or something, and the template is already peeling up, then if a little bit of water gets underneath, they will start to peel. So normally by that time, you're pretty much just about done anyway with that piece. But and you can also stick it back on if you need to. But just something to keep in mind, these are not necessarily waterproof templates. They can come off with the water. So try to avoid that until you are completely done shaping them from the cutting, grinding, etc. And you can just see this grinder makes quick work. The closer you get that cut to that vinyl template, the easier it's going to be for you. And we are just taking that down. And what I like to do is, if it starts to look a little bit like the wheel's getting dry, I'll just tap the sponge, and it'll kind of apply a little bit more water without me having to pick up the bottle, squeeze it in and all that. Now the sponge will hold a lot of the water, and so that's really probably where you're going to want to shoot the water at, is into the sponge. Okay, we got a few more pieces to do here. And the week 1 dove is coming along very nicely. And today we had no miscuts, nothing broke in the wrong way when we were shaping these pieces. And most of the shapes here are pretty safe shapes to cut. This one that I'm grinding right now was the worst one, where it kind of comes to that point. and you have the most likelihood of it breaking in a way that is disadvantageous to you. And we are taking this right around. There we have it. And one thing to keep in mind is when you are grinding, there is a little bit of debris that shoots off. So you're probably going to want to wear some safety glasses. I've got my glasses on, so that's a minimum. You probably want more than that, to be honest. But again, that's where that stubborn thing probably comes in a little bit. And but you know, you only got one set of eyes, so you want to protect them. And so we do have this tiny little piece, and it's for the most part fine. It just has a little bit of shards poking out, and I can actually hold this. It is small, but I can hold it. And we're just going to knock down any kind of smooth edges. And the thing about these grinders is you can touch them, they don't hurt you, you know. So, you know, if you get your hands really close to the grinder, it's really not a big deal. So that's pretty much it. I'm just really trying to remove any of the sharp edges that the foil might have a hard time sticking to. And we are done with the grinding. So now we need to go into the foiling preparation, starting with the cleaning. So we are going to clean our pieces and put them onto our pattern as we do so. Sweeping off one more time. Now what I like to do is I just take a rag. Something reasonably clean is ideal. I've used this one quite a few times. I'm actually going to walk, let me think about this. I have another one over here. This one I think might be a little tiny bit better. It's got a lot of, looks like acrylic latex caulk or paint or something, but that's all right. We will work around all of that. There we go, it's a decent enough spot. So what we are going to do, well first what I do like to do is to remove this excess vinyl. Get the scissors, cut this off. And I like to remove the vinyl before we start cleaning. And then we can stick the patterns back onto our little waxy paper here. And that will kind of be the best way to preserve these pieces if you want to reuse them. Now, mine got pretty wet underneath, so they are probably not going to be too easy to reuse in my case. But, you know, if you suck yours down a little bit better, you might be able to get another use out of them. So right now I'm going to go ahead and get all these off of here, and then we're going to get to cleaning them. Cleaning our glass. And don't want to lose that little beak right there. And the white gloss, it really shows up with the wood as a background, so that's helpful. Now, whenever we do remove the, or when we grind, it creates a lot of this glass dust, and it just kind of cakes up on the edges, because that's where we're kind of grinding. And so what we want to do is we want to remove all of that, and we want to make sure that the foil is going to stick properly. So I just take a normal glass cleaner, doesn't really matter what kind. Alcohol I do like to use because it evaporates quickly. And we want to focus starting with the, make sure your hands are pretty clean too. I'm going to go ahead and kind of clean up this glove here. Try to remove any debris so that way I won't transfer it onto the, I I want to transfer that onto the glass. So I will clean this up, and once it is, we will put it onto our pattern, and we will continue on until we've got everything nicely cleaned. Now this is just an old t-shirt. Cotton rag will work. Any rag will work. Probably you don't want to use something that's going to leave a lot of lint behind or that will degrade very easily like a paper towel. So that's probably the only thing I might be a little bit mindful of in terms of rag selection. But yeah, I just normally use these old t-shirts, and I use them for everything, patina, cleaning, all that stuff. So if you got any, that will be helpful. You can also buy rags from like Home Depot or different building supply stores. So if you don't want to start to destroy your clothes, you can, of course, do that. I'd be curious to know kind of what other people like to use for the cleaning part, if they use some sort of rags that they buy from Home Depot or Walmart or something. This is just the way that I've always done it. Mostly because I've got so many of these old t-shirts that it doesn't really matter for me. I've got tons of these, probably 20 of these old these are just our old uniform shirts that, you know, they get a little bit ripped up working with glass and everything. So they end up coming in handy. Instead of as a uniform, as a little rag. And this gloss dust, you can see it just gets everywhere. It's all over my hands. And so this is a prime copper foiling deterrent, if you will. So this is one of the most important steps. Make sure your piece is going to last a long time. And the dove looks a little bit plain right now with just the white gloss, but with the foiling, it is going to look absolutely awesome. So I am looking forward to that. And if you're enjoying the kit series, let me know. We are got many more planned. Again, like I mentioned, we've got the Husky for next week, and we've got some white and gray glass for that. You know, they kind of have those two tones to their fur, and the way that the pattern is made, it's got those two tones, you know, spaces for them. So it's gonna end up looking really nice, especially if you're a dog lover. Maybe you have a Husky or two. They are pretty big animals. Almost look like they can eat as much as a human being. I don't know that for a fact, but they're pretty big, you know. Now, where does this piece go? Right there. There we go. And you got this dove is probably one of the more complex ones that we've done on the channel, as far as the weekly live streams. So it's gonna be a little bit more of a challenging one, I think, especially as we get to the foiling with these tiny little pieces. Now, I will say probably the one that was the hardest to cut was the Blazing Sun. That one had a ton of very, very narrow points along the tips of the sun that kept breaking for me. And I did end up getting them, you know, different tricks, and if you want to see what that looked like, you can check that video out. And of course we had the free pattern, so that was actually a scrap gloss pattern. And the beginning of the live streams, all we did was scrap glass patterns. So if you want to check those out, by all means, that might be a good starting point if you don't want to purchase the kits. You might have some scrap glass. You might be able to source some scrap glass from, Facebook Marketplace or other places. And so that might work out really well for you. And Bobby mentioned that your husband had a bundle of shop towels, and you stole those from him. Yeah. I used to use some of those shop towels too. They're kind of like the bluish towels. They're sort of, not this blue, a different blue. But I used to use those too, and those worked out pretty good. And Cindy asked if we will be offering just a sticker pack for the month by itself. We can, if that is something that is of interest. I'm kind of just shooting from the hip here. So by all means, if there are any recommendations whatsoever, I will take them under advisement, and we will kind of do it live. We're not going to be, my way or the highway here. I'd like to hear what you guys would like, and we will plan accordingly. And actually, we have started offering these stickers and, the vinyl, adhesive-backed vinyl. And we, we're getting that a little bit more dialed in. So we're going to be offering those a little bit more competitive rates. And I think we're going to offer them with free shipping, or shipping included, I should say. So, definitely we will look into doing the vinyl, adhesive-backed vinyl patterns by themselves. Now, we do sell them individually right now. So in the stained glass mastery community, if you go to the, to each week in the modules, and you go to the free pattern, you will see where you download the pattern, you can also purchase that. And like I said, I am going to be kind of changing the pricing with those and offering free shipping, since we've dialed that in a little bit better. Microfiber cloths is what Bobby mentioned that was working well. So yeah, thank you for that. Okay, now this is my foiling apparatus. It's just the Creator's Foiler with the foil caddy here, and I've got a few different backings with the FID and an X-Acto blade. And so we are going to get started here. Now I pretty much only use this, if possible, the glass, this one has got a little bit of debris. I need to pull out some of this foil, get a fresh spot. And I actually prefer to use these lead dikes. They work really well to cut this foil, just like that. All right, now, the way that this works, let me see if I can give you a little bit of a better view here. All right, we're right over this thing. So what I like to do, you just stick this thing into this groove, and it centers that foil, see that? And you just spin it on that bearing. There's a little bearing right here, and this thing just rolls right along. And I've actually been considering making this foiler into an actual product instead of just several products pieced together. And if that sounds like something you are interested in, let me know, because many people have been asking about this foiler. And, I kind of had to do, I cut out this 2x4 right here, and I cut out these little pieces of wood, and I mounted the caddy to it. So it was a little, it's not exactly a turnkey or a very polished or easy setup to, in the very beginning. But wow, is it awesome in the long term. I have loved using this every single week since we started these live streams. I believe I did this from the very first week, in fact. And I love it. I love it. It is insanely useful. And it just gets the foil just right every single time. Look at that. Nice even reveal. And we'll just go ahead and put on our pattern. We're going to go ahead and burnish after we are done with all of these. And The only problem with this foiler is occasionally the glass that we are using is a little bit too thick for this groove. Now, it's not the end of the world. You can still kind of use it a little bit off. And now that I think about it, we could even solve that problem by making the groove tapered. So it will stop whenever it hits the thickness of the glass. I think that would work. We'd probably have to print one out and test it. But yeah, let me know if that sounds like something you'd be interested in instead of just hand foiling or instead of piecing this thing together like I am. I would really like to know. Okay, got our second piece here, and if we look on the overhead, let's see if we can see it from this one. Yep, we can see we've got a few pieces here starting up, and we'll switch back to our free camera. And when these pieces get really small, it can be a little bit tricky. You really, I mean, no matter what, even if you're freehand foiling them, it's still tricky. Anything that's really small like this, it's just going to require a little bit more concentration, a little bit more time, and of course, a little bit more patience. Sometimes that is what we are all about here. Keeping your patience. You don't want to be getting frustrated. It's supposed to be a good, relaxing time. It's okay if it takes a little bit longer. We are trying to be patient. We're trying to be relaxed. And not get too frustrated. I know it can get to you sometimes. I know it. I know it happens to me occasionally. Believe it or not. I know I'm a pretty chill, suave kind of guy, but even I get a little bit frustrated occasionally. There we go. But you know what I never get frustrated with? This foiler right here. Talk about this thing so positively, even my wife gets jealous of this foiler sometimes. But it's all right. It does help me out. She helps me out too a lot. There we go. Okay. Got this larger piece here. Starting to look very nice and shiny, our little foiled pieces. All right. And I know for me personally, if I was hand foiling these, it would take me a lot longer. I am wondering if anyone is doing this project at home right now, let me know if you're able to just smoke me in terms of how fast you are foiling if you're doing it by hand. Because, I mean, I don't really do a lot of foiling with other people around. So I'm wondering what other people might think of this. You know? If maybe I'm just living in delusion here, thinking that I'm foiling so fast, when in reality people are just smoking me here. So yeah, if you are doing this at home, let me know kind of how I am comparing in terms of speed with you at the foiling stage only. The soldering, etc., you might be faster or I might be faster, but that's not really, I'm not too worried about that part. And Homemade, thank you for that. Looks like Homemade thinks that this would be a good product. Don't know what I would call it. Probably have to call it the Mr. Stained Glass Foiler. No, I'm kidding. Something like that. And this project we are using 7 30 seconds as usual. You know, when we get the foiler set up, gosh, it's just hard to kind of get away from what we already have set up, you know? It just looks so good. And it just works so good. And then, you know, I have been meaning to bring home a bottle of copper patina. Maybe not for the Husky. I don't think for the Husky that would be a good idea. Let me think about this. No, definitely not. It has to be the black patina for the Husky. Now for this Dove, we're going to see how the silver looks. I think the black will look better in terms of the patina for the solder. And you can, of course, do whatever you want. But here, I think we're going to do, we'll see how the silver looks, but probably the black. And Bobby mentioned that they're doing a different project, foiling another project, and that I am pretty speedy with the tool, whereas they are hand foiling. So that is a bit what I thought. And, you know, I had measured myself. You know, we did a foiling video a few years ago where we featured this product and all that. And I literally foiled the exact same piece. Actually, I think I foiled several pieces. Maybe it was just one piece. I don't remember. And I was way faster with this tool. Now, granted, I have spent almost no time hand foiling. I mean, literally almost no time. Because this is just the way I started, pretty much. And it is just, for me at least, it's worked out pretty well. Yeah, so I wasn't really sure. At least for myself, I had just destroyed my previous time foiling. So that was, you know, that was my suspicion. And I really do enjoy that you're here, Bobby, and doing another project with us. Sounds like a good time. Sometimes doing projects, it can get a little bit lonely, so it's nice to have something going on in the background, a podcast, or joining us for this live stream, of course. And wondering how the 2 p.m. on Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm not sure, you know, depending on your time zone, but I'm not sure how that's working out for everyone. I thought that it might be a pretty decent time to do this. So, you know, I'm not too sure what everyone thinks about that. If it's a good time, convenient, inconvenient, I'd be interested to know what everyone else thinks. And we've got a few more pieces here. We still have the tiny little beak we still have to do. So I would be curious to see what's going to happen with that one. I think it'll be all right. I think we're probably just going to have to mostly hand foil it. The dreaded hand foiling. All right, we got it. Okay. Now, what I like to do here is when I start the foiling, I like to fold over the edges from the beginning. See how it's still flared out right here, but where I'm going to overlap, I like to fold it in just a little bit, and then when I put the overlapped on top, it just fits into the groove much easier and doesn't get all crinkled up. So you'll see if you use this foiler that that will be a problem if you do not, you know, fold over the very first part before you try to overlap at the end. Now this is going to be quite a bit of burnishing, a lot of little lines in here. But man, does it look sharp so far. Let's check this out. that's looking nice and sharp for the foiled edges. I'm liking that. I think for the rest of this, let's see if this works. Oh, no, we're a little bit off. I'm going to put it back onto the free camera here. I'll put it a little bit from the side so you can see that. And Bobby mentioned that the weekends are easier. Yeah, we do record this and do post them after. So that is true. You can watch it anytime, of course. And we are, just trying to do our best for everybody. All right, got that one. And we've got one more piece. Yes, this tiny little beak. Let's see how well this works out. Oh yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to just hand foil this. Okay. So I'm gonna do is what I like to do. If I need to hand foil, I'll just take the fid, pull out a little bit. I'm gonna cut the part off that the fid touched, and now I've got a little bit here to hand foil. So that's highly versatile here. To be able to still hand foil if you need to. Now this is a tiny piece, and I by no means have very, insanely large hands. They're just average sized. So if you have bigger hands, this piece might be a little bit of a tougher. Now, if you got smaller hands, it might be a little bit easier for you. But it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad, people. Come on. Look, that wasn't that bad. Come on. Yeah, and no problem, Bobby. Yeah, I think you're going to like this pattern. Now, look, we have a tiny little bit of white showing there. I'm probably going to trim back a little bit of this foil so that we can expose a little bit more of that white glass. And really, this is meant to emulate that beak. So yeah, I'm just going to probably trim back we have a little bit of white showing. It's really hard to tell on that camera. Let's look at this one. I have a tiny bit of that white showing. See that? But I think I'm actually going to maybe do that right now on the close camera. Oh, look, on this side, it got a little bit uneven. So this side's actually fine. So I'm going to just cut a little bit from this side. And what I'm going to do first is try to burnish it down. And I'm not going to get too crazy here with it because it's so small. I'm going to burnish the edges like we do. There we go. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and burnish the face here. Like we always do. Burnishing in towards the center. Flip it, do the same. And we're going to try to trim it to be about this reveal. This is a good reveal on the back side. And actually, I don't really know which side's the front or back from just looking at it. I'll have to put on the pattern and compare. But let's just pretend this is the back side for now. Okay. Flip this over. And now the X-Acto tool is the right tool here. So this is actually correct. It's really just the bottom. See, this bottom needs to be trimmed a little bit. So I'm going to just try to get it right where I want it. And it's like I'm doing surgery here. I'm a stained glass surgeon. There we go. Okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Booyah! So we've got our pieces foiled. We need to burnish them, of course. But let's go ahead and check out the overhead, how we are looking right here. Woohoo! That's looking good. That is looking good. All right. Very, very pleased with that so far. So what we are going to go ahead and do is I'm going to keep this foiler handy. And look at all this backing we went through. Look at all that. Look at how quick that was. Okay, let's get that out of the way. We'll get this out of the way. And now we need to burnish. Move all these off of here. And actually this one we already did. And we will just start burnishing with the edges first, of course. Now, as we burnish, we want to look for defects. Defects such as improperly overlaid foil, where it wasn't quite in line and it just has a non-smooth transition. And of course, we can, when I find one of those, I'm going to point it out and I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it. Because I'm not perfect, no one's perfect, and it will not be perfect your first try. And if it is, you got lucky probably. That's just the way it is. So we want to look for defects. Try to make our project as good as we can. And here's a defect that is notable that we're going to, I think it's fine, but it's something to consider. So even with the foiler here, it can get a little bit non-even. So you see right here, it looks pretty much even, but right here it does not. You can see this has just a little bit of foil over the face. It's not bad. It still is definitely acceptable, but just something to watch out for. If there was nothing exposed, then we'd have to for sure do something about that. Okay. But since we do have a nice bit exposed on the face still, it is acceptable for this hobbyist, for the the Dove project here. There we go. Nicely done. We're going to go ahead and do the same on the other side. And I like to use this FID because it's got this nice flat end, and that's useful for texture. Now in this case we have no texture really, but still you want that versatility because you're not always going to be working with perfectly smooth glass. Now all of the glasses in this month's kit happen to be pretty smooth, so it's not a big deal. And I find the smoother glasses to be a little bit easier to work with, but you don't get the effect necessarily that you might want. So that is something to consider. You know, last month we did a strawberry with a granite texture, and it came out fantastic. Really kind of emulated those little seeds on the surface of the strawberry, you know. So it kind of gave it a little bit more depth than you would have gotten otherwise. And whenever you're doing projects, you want to consider that in the overall, in the finished product, because you want to emulate glass, you can only do so much with it, and you want to use everything you possibly can, and texture is one of those things. So just keep that in mind whenever you are, about to create a project. Think to yourself, what texture might work well for here? Smooth or something else? Okay. We can see our little pattern coming to life here. Very happy with that so far. Again, edges first, and then the face. Always looking for defects. Okay. And if you guys have any other ideas for how you would like the weekly patterns to be distributed, let me know. We can easily, not easily, but we can definitely make some changes if you guys have any other ideas here. As far as the patterns, the kits, the glass, assortment, etc. And here I did find on this piece what I was talking about earlier with a non-smooth transition. I'm going to finish burnishing, as you should always do before making any sort of little fixes or repairs. You want to make sure to burnish everything fully, and then you can work on it a little bit. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here in just a moment. And this glass being nice, smooth glass, you can pretty easily really flatten it out really nicely. Okay, let's go ahead and switch over here to the close camera. I'm going to grab my X-Acto blade, and you can see right here where it overlapped, it's not quite very smooth. Let's see if I twist it a little bit more. If we can kind of see it right here. See that? So that will show up with the solder. So we're just going to cut that just ever so slightly. And there you go. So that is something that you want to look for. And that happened when we didn't quite overlay it perfectly. So not a big deal. Pretty quick and easy fix. And definitely worthwhile because it will show up once that, because that solder will stick to every bit of copper. If you flux it, that solder will run right into it, including that little spot. And it's just a mess to try to fix. And it'll be kind of ugly and noticeable. So you want to take care of that now while it's nice and easy, quick and easy. And this burnishing stage is a good opportunity to really check everything over and make sure it's exactly the way you want it. Because once you start soldering, you are pretty much committed to that as your finished product. So that is something to keep in mind. There we go. Okay. Got a few more pieces over here. All right. Really like that. And these are fitting together very nicely thanks to the little vinyl cutouts. Helps me get that perfect edge every single time. There we are. Okay. And for me personally, the burnishing does seem to be maybe kind of one of the more tedious parts of it, but it is necessary to get a nice finished product. Again, it's all part of what we mentioned earlier. We want to make sure to be relaxing. This is, you know, not a race. We're here to make some art. We enjoy that. And so there's no reason to get frustrated from, you know, little parts that might take a little bit extra time. That's fine. There we go. And this foil, it really just hugs to all those divots and textures. And right here, the way that this glass broke, I'm gonna have to show you. We're gonna have to do a little repair. So that is a nice point of interest here. Okay. And this would probably be okay, but we are going to go ahead and fix it. So if we look over here on the close camera, you can see right here where this glass, it kind of has a little divot. And I just want to put a little bit of extra foil right there. And so what I'll do again, take a little piece of foil from our thing. And I'm just going to add a little bit more here. And we're going to cut that down with the X-Acto blade. Now again, I was sure to burnish everything before doing this repair. You don't want to do repairs over unburnished foil. And after applying the new foil, I'm going to go ahead and burnish this down, and then we're going to cut it with the X-Acto blade again and get that to be the perfect sort of shape that we want. Okay. So we're just going to cut this. There we go. Just like that. And so now we've got a nice little reveal there. That will be a good place for the solder to go. There we are. Okay. We'll do a nice little burnish here. Got a few more pieces left to do. And then it is on to the soldering. And for soldering, I like to use a lead-free solder. It's a little bit harder to work with. It's got a little bit of a higher melting point. But, you know, just trying to avoid any sort of lead, if I can, is ideal. As much as possible, anyway. Especially with these smaller items where you're handling with your hands a lot. It cannot hurt to, you know, just be mindful of that. It's not like we're using this as a dinner plate and eating food off of it or anything, or as a cup to drink water from. But still, you know, you want to, unless you are doing that, which in case I would definitely stop doing that and maybe consider getting your blood tested, because there's a good chance you might have some contaminants in your blood. But since we're not doing that, you know, it's really not a big deal to handle it, you know, infrequently. But, you know, I just want to take that extra little precaution just because. Okay. So we've got our pieces all fully burnished, and we are now ready to to solder. Now what I am going to do is I am going to go ahead and fit these pieces together very nicely and tack it together. So I might actually need to do this on the pattern. I'm going to give it a moment here, see if I can get it without it. And if I can't, then we're going to use the pattern to pretty much make this work. Let's see here. Because the way I trace this, it's not exact, so it's kind of throwing me off a little bit. Now, probably the ideal situation would be if you printed off one of these patterns, and then you could solder right on top of it. But the way this one is, it kind of fits together only one way. So I think it's going to work out fine. But that is an option if you really want like a nice guide that's going to really be, you know, kind of really true to what it needs to be. Let's see here. How do you go? Something like this. And I don't want to forget to put that little eyeball in there somewhere. Oops, wrong one. This one goes right here first. And now this one goes on. There we go. So this is fitting together pretty dang nicely. And we're going to do a close-up here. We can see kind of how we're looking. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the iron on, get that heated up. And we can switch over here to the free camera. And so you see everything fits together pretty good. A few minor gaps here and there, but not too bad. Nothing to be too upset about. And we can go ahead and definitely ready to get tacked together. I think what I'm going to do is tack it together first and then go back and put that little eyeball on there, you know, somewhere. I'm actually kind of looking at this. I've got a little bit of a piece of foil here I need to remove. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Get some gloves on, get the flux out. And actually, I'm going to probably need to reposition my glass over here so that I can bring my fume extractor out of here. And I'm going to just put this into the box that it came in for the moment, and then I'll take care of that. Okay, I'm going to bring the fume extractor over here. There we go. And we will go ahead and get this turned on. All right, get it right up against that. All right, and I'm going to get the flux out. I just use this little container here with this little brush in there. Just keep it in there. And we're just going to dab a little bit onto the areas of the joints. I'm not trying to disturb the actual pieces at all, since they're pretty much right where I want them. I just want to drop a little bit of flux on here, and then in a moment we are going to, you know, really flux it up and do all that. But right now, just a quick light tacking of solder, they call it. Tacking, we're tacking right now. Tack soldering, I should say. And I'm really happy how this is looking. It's almost a shame you gotta solder over that nice shiny foil. And I'm gonna put it right here so we can see that. So again, now you can see this ironing tip is a little bit dirty. So what I like to do, just take your wire brush and just kind of do like this, remove all that junk. And this is still kind of heating up, so it's not super hot right now. Before you know it, there you go, got all that junk off. And let's see. Yeah, it's pretty much there. So we're gonna go ahead and, again, we're just tacking all the pieces together. And then we're gonna do a lift off, and you're gonna see how strong they are with just a little bit of, just a tiny little bit of solder. And I'm just doing a little final adjustment here. And sometimes you can actually just use the X-Acto blade. Sometimes our fingers are just a little bit too crude, and it's hard to really get it exactly where you want it with just your fingers alone. There we go. Okay. And we are just getting this solder down. Especially that little tiny beak. Got it. All right. So this is all tacked together. And now we can kind of see it's holding together very nicely. No more worries there. So we can pretty much just flex up the whole thing. And while we solder this, we are going to go ahead and tin the perimeter. And then we will do some edge beading. Of course, we'll be breaking out our heat-resistant gloves for that. Now, we are not doing a beauty bead here. We are just doing a quick solder. We're going to come back to this, of course, because this is the viewing side. And but first, I want to just get the solder down. And like I said, we will come back to it. But this is going to help us to get started on the back side and give us a good foundation to finish everything. Now, the reason why we don't try to do a finished bead right now is because when we're working on the back side, it's going to transfer heat to the front, and there will be a little bit of dripping and stuff like that. So there's really no point to work on the front in terms of a finished product way. We want to just get it to where it's pretty much stable, and then we can do the finished bit after we finish the back. So I'm going to go ahead and get the heat-resistant gloves on now because we are going to be handling this a little bit more. And if you haven't purchased a pair of these, again, you're probably one of the stubborn people, and I highly, highly recommend it. I'm slowly becoming less and less one of the stubborn people, and it is much better, much less painful anyway. So whether that's better or not is for you to decide. For me, it's better. Okay, so this is the back side. We are going to go ahead and kind of try to do more of a finished look on the back here. And if you find that it's kind of difficult for your piece to stay in one place, you might need to put down a few nails, or you can tape it to the surface, the work surface. And when you're soldering, you want to give it a nice clean bead, nice rounded bead. You don't want it to look flat or sunken in. You want it to have like a nice rounded profile to it. And that'll kind of be the most consistent, the best looking, etc. And even though this is the back side, we do still want to do a good job with it. And normally what I do with this type of solder is I kind of just tap it along, and I try to keep that wet edge. That'll keep it from having a bunch of little lines in the solder from where the molten meets the cold, the cold solid solder. So little by little. There we are. And definitely make sure to have a good fume extraction or airflow. And you're probably going to want to wear a mask. I'm not wearing one right now because it's really hard to speak and all that at the same time. But I've got this airflow. It just takes everything right out of the building, this extractor. So, you might you want to check out fume extractors on Amazon.com. You might want to do your projects outside, maybe on your back patio, something like that. And with a fan, you know, to sort of emulate a fume extractor. And of course you want your gloves because there's a lot of chemicals and a lot of heat going on here. So do yourself a major favor and get yourself all these items. Okay. Now we are going to heat these up and get these nice rounded beads. And if you find that it's just sinking through to the backside, it's probably because it's too hot and you need to let it cool. So far we are okay here. And this is looking pretty good. And we're going to go ahead and do all these solder runs and then jump back and do the, probably we're going to edge bead first and then go ahead and take care of the front. And what we are going to do probably last is put on a wire so that we can hang this, because after all, we want to display our art pieces. And I'm going to have to start a new column behind me for the second month. You know, kit pieces. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do some edge beading now. And the way that we do that, we will apply some flux. I'd like to just apply it to the entire perimeter, just like this. And then as you solder, you want to try to avoid your hands being underneath the actual piece, okay? So you don't want to be dripping that solder right onto your hands. Now what I do is I kind of prop the solder up like this, and then I can just take the tip and grab it and put it onto the right spot. And so I'll just grab it like this and just tap it along. And since we've already tinned the faces, it makes it much easier to kind of marry the two, you know, the two faces, the front and back, since it's already got that tinning on there. And it just melts it all up as you tap it along. And if you're having a hard time here, you may want to consider cooling down your iron by either using your on-handle temperature control, unplugging it, or a rheostat. And if you do one of these options, you can, you know, the solder will not be drippy, not be as drippy, if you will, because there's less heat. You know, it's cooler, so it will kind of stay in place just a little bit better. And the area that I just soldered, it is still pretty hot, and I can feel it on my left hand, but since I got my gloves on, you know, it's manageable. It's not so painful. I can't even hold it. If you look at some of the earlier videos, you'll see me kind of, you know, you know, doing all that stuff, and playing hot potato with the stained glass. And you worked hard for it, so you don't want to be destroying it right here at the very end. And I've done other things like making little jigs to hold them, stuff like that, but this is just by far the simplest, quickest, easiest, and most effective way to do the edge beading that I found. If you have any other recommendations, let me know. I'd be happy to hear them and even to test them out. And if you do drop any solder onto your tabletop, do not try to reuse it. You're just going to get a lot of nasty impurities into your finished product. So it's really not worth it to save like 1 cent worth of solder. Just let it be. My opinion. That's just my opinion. That's what I do. Not telling you what to do, but that's what I do. That's the little beak. And you can see how I kind of rotate the panel as I solder all the way around. That's going to give me the best results. Because you have to kind of be fighting gravity. So you have to kind of rotate the panel to where it's going to be most advantageous for the solder to actually set up in the correct position. Okay, let's take a quick look at this. So this is our front side. Now we need to do two things still. We still need to, well, a few things. First of all, we need to solder this side to be a nice bead. We need to install a wire in the back to hang it. Probably we're going to do it right off this interior, the center wing. And we need to patina it, clean it and patina it. So, we also need to put the little eyeball. So don't let me forget that. Okay, what are we doing first? We are going to probably fix this front, and then we will probably clean it. So we'll just keep tapping it, get that nice rounded bead. See it bubbles up. It might have a little bit of flux in there, or air. And if you see it's a little bit too flat, you might have to, put a little bit extra solder on there. Try to round it over. And just trying to keep tapping it wet edge into wet edge. That'll kind of give you the best result. And don't put too much on there. You'll know there's too much. It'll be a huge mass of solder just sitting right there on the glass. It'll be way wider than the actual the width of the copper foil. It'll just be sitting on the edge of the glass, of the surface of the glass, I should say. Oops. We don't want that to be a full. And honestly, you could make it a full solder bead on that beak, but I think it might look a little bit better with just a little bit of white poking out. Okay. So we got that part pretty much all finished here. Now we want to probably clean it, put our little eyeball, and then we are going to do the wire, wire on the back side, and then we are going to patina it. So I'm going to actually put a little bit of glass cleaner on here. We don't need to get the whole thing very clean. We mostly just need this one little spot. And it's a little bit warm, this piece of glass. So we're going to see if that foil will stick to it. Okay, now that's pretty clean. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of foil here. Okay, and this is really all that we need. And I'm just going to kind of put it somewhere over here so we can kind of look at it. and decide where we're going to want that eye to be. And I think I'm going to want it to be pretty small, just very subtle. You know, nothing too crazy. And I might even just try to mark it out with a pen first. And yeah, I think something like that will work. Let's give this a shot. I think that might be a little bit too low, actually. Let's see if we can move this up. Let me see. I'm going to have to take these gloves off. They're a little bit too fluxy. See if I can take this off. And maybe just move this a little bit higher. Grab our FID, kind of burnish this out a little bit, and it looks like there might be a little bit of contaminants underneath. That foil's not sticking very well. Let's go ahead and clean that up. What I think I'm actually going to do is see whereabouts we want it on here with the marker. I think about right there towards the top. That might be a little bit too, definitely a little bit too big, but about the right position. So we'll clean that with the gloss cleaner, then we'll make sure to really dry it off. And then that foil should stick really nicely. Go ahead and grab another piece. Cut it off here. I'm going to put this kind of closer to the top. And then I'm going to just do a small mark with the pen. And then I think that's about where we're going to have it. And we're going to go ahead and just cut this into a circle here. Much as we can. Then we'll put a little bit of solder on there, see how it looks. Yeah, I think that's about right. Nothing too big, nothing too crazy. Yeah, something just about like that. That's a little bit of debris. Oops, a little blade came out here. A little bit of debris right here I can kind of scratch away. And then we're going to go ahead and put some flux on there. Flux. Back to the solder. It's not going to take much. Oh, look, this thing, it just took that right off. Now, this might not work right now. We probably had to put the... I think it's because the glass might be too warm for the foil. And I think that this foil might just be, the adhesive is melting too fast before it's set on the glass. So we're going to try it one more time. And then if it doesn't work, it's probably because this needs to cool down. And I would probably recommend putting that eyeball on before we even start soldering next time. So I'm going to probably take these gloves off too. We'll go ahead and put a little right there. Just a little eye. Yeah, about right there. We're going to cut this down once again. I'm going to go ahead and burnish this first, see if that helps at all. And you can see it looks like that adhesive is, the foil is just separating from the adhesive. So yeah, it's not going to work because this is still just a little bit too hot. It needs to cool down first. So if you do want to put an eye, you're going to need to do it before you start to solder anything on there. So ours will be just as the pattern is, and that's all right. Now what we do still need to do here is put the back, the wire to hang it. And of course we still need to patina it. So we are going to clean it up. On the front side, we'll go ahead and check out the back side. Now again, we do want to put it right here on the very tip of this little wing. So I like to take the wire and just bend it into a loop like this. Cut it down. And something like this, I'm probably going to twist it maybe once or twice, make it into a little bit of like a braid. And we're going to just run it down just a little bit, probably to the first joint. And we're going to probably call it there for these solders. So we're going to want to tack this in place. And even this might be too many braids because it looks like it might be sticking up just a little bit too much. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get a different piece. Do the same thing, do a little loop. And probably we're going to do just one like this. Just like that. And then we can solder it right onto that tip. Put a little bit of flux. Get the solder ready. We're just going to try to tack this right in the right spot. Just like that. And now we can position these legs to be right where we want them. So I'm going to use these grosiers to just bend that wire. We want to just bend that wire to be in line with that piece of glass. So you see that? We're just bending that wire, and now it's right nicely in line with that piece of glass. So in that location, I'm going to go ahead and solder that down. And then we'll kind of make our way all the way down till we get to the joint. Just like that. See how that's overlaying that foil? So we're going to put a little bit of flux there. Just a little bit of solder. Just like that. And the same thing on the other side. And you can kind of edge beat it a little bit on there. And that is very well secured. And then I'm going to bring this down all the way to that joint. So I can do it right there. Just like that. And then I can do the same thing right here, and then I'm going to cut those to size. And then we'll kind of fill in the edge with a little bit of edge beating. I need a little bit more solder here. What I'm probably going to do is cut this off so I can get it a little bit lower. Just like that. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this one down also. And now I'm just going to kind of fill in this edge beading to really secure the wire. I'm going to kind of push this wire down a lot. And that will make it barely noticeable and very strong, which is what you want. Both of those things. No point in it being really strong if it's extremely noticeable, and really no point in it being not noticeable if it's not very strong. So you want both of those things. And you can kind of just edge bead them down, and they'll kind of engulf the full wire, and then that way you will never have a problem with them failing. And we repair hundreds of panels every single year, and if you can guess where they all, almost every single one of these, if it's not an impact, it's breaking right on the jump ring location, because they just solder a tiny little jump ring on there. And so that's the reason why I'm pretty adamant about really reinforcing these points where they're being hung from. So this is so far what we've got here. We're going to go ahead and get this all cleaned up, and then it is time for the patina, the last step. Okay, let's go ahead and switch to the overhead here. I'm going to go ahead and get some stuff out of the way, and we can of course turn off the fume extractor, and we are going to clean this up very well. Again, just a glass cleaner, nothing too fancy here. Same as when we were doing our preparation for the copper foil, same stuff. There we go. Okay. And now we can go ahead and apply the patina. So we're going to be using this black patina. And we did use a black backing. This glass is opaque, so it doesn't really matter what backing we used. But normally, as a good rule of thumb, you want to match the backing with the the patina color, in case you can see through it in a transparent glass. That's the reason why. You can see this solder really takes the patina well. And if you're doing enough projects, you can get a little container and fill it with some patina, and you could just dip your little panel in there if you're doing enough projects. Now, if you're just doing a few here and there, there's really no reason to do all that. But just something to consider. Go ahead and do the back side, of course. And again, just putting a lot, you don't need to be too stingy with this stuff. You want it to have that reaction. And of course, I am wearing gloves because it is an acid, the patina. So you want to try to keep that from touching your hands as much as possible. And the little wire we use, it's a tinned wire, so we can actually patina that too. So I'll make sure to kind of get that all coated, if you will. Make sure to get all the edges coated. You want to really get it all down very well. And before you know it, we are here and pretty much finished up with the week 1 of the May kit. Again, if you're interested, check out the check out the product, check out the Stained Glass Mastery community where you can get these patterns for free. And we have a ton of other free resources available. Leave a link in the description and the pinned comment. And with that, we'll do a final cleaning here. And today, we brought this dove all the way from just a simple pattern to a finished product. And we did everything from the cutting to the copper foiling. We do the soldering and, of course, the finished patining. And so check out, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to check out the Stained Glass Mastery community where we have tons of free patterns and everything you see here. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week for the Husky pattern for all the dog lovers. Thank you very much. Goodbye.